When you trace the long history of paints, you will realize that acrylic paints are a fairly new addition. In fact, acrylic paints are made of plastic, so as plastic evolved, acrylic paints also became more refined. One of the reasons why acrylic paints are so popular among both professional as well as beginners is the fact that they are low maintenance. Unlike oil paints, you do not require multiple tools to use them. It's also very easy to control their consistency and texture. The fact that they're quick to dry means that you can lay down multiple layers quickly and efficiently. You can even use acrylic paints on multiple surfaces. And the fact that they're so tactile means that you can give your paintings an additional dimension. Today, I would be reviewing acrylic paints from the world-renowned Russian art supply manufacturer called Nevskaya Palitra. These paints are a part of their Sonnet range, which targets not only beginners but also professional artists. The Sonnet acrylic paints are designed for painting and craft activities. They may be applied on canvas, wood, metal, leather, and even cloth. They're easily miscible with water, and when they are dry, they're flexible and indelible. The box that I have with me has 12 tubes of colors, each containing 18 ml of paints. There is a good mix of warm and cool hues that promises a good range of shades when mixed. The light fastness of each shade is indicated with stars, and all of them are in the medium to high range, indicating that the colors would retain its vibrancy over a very long period of time. The Sonnet acrylic palette has 35 shades, and they're available in various sizes, both as assorted boxes as well as loose tubes. The tubes rest in this plastic case. Looking closely at the tubes, there are ample details given about each shade on the label. Here you have the shade name and the number. On the side of the tubes, there are details about transparency, light fastness, and the pigments that are used to make this specific shade. These are useful bits of information, especially for beginners who want to avoid mixing muddy colors. The overall assortment of colors look really good. Let's proceed to do a swatch test to check the brightness and the vibrancy. The Sonnet Studio Acrylic Paints have a smooth consistency, and they're easy to apply to the surface. Unlike most acrylic paints, which have a chalky and flat effect, these paints have an interesting gel-like consistency which allows the white of the paper to reflect through. I'm also loving the fact that I can manipulate the paint with my brush to create a textured effect, and this property of the paint can be used by many artists to enhance the touch and feel element of their artwork. Let's proceed to do a small sketch to check how well these paints blend. The Sonnet Studio Acrylic paints are really easy to work with. The paints are blending beautifully when wet. They are also quick to dry, and this makes it easy to apply multiple layers swiftly and efficiently. The paints are not chalky and opaque like most acrylic colors, and this allows the lower layers of the paints to reflect through, creating an illusion of depth. I've been using the Camel Acrylic paints for years. They work well and they're cost effective, and I've never felt the need to replace them. But of course, I could not resist my temptation to pitch them against these Russian paints to see how they fared. For the first test, I have taken the titanium white shade of both Camel Acrylic as well as Sonnet Acrylic and put a small blob of paint on a sheet of paper. This is the status after 1 hour. The Sonnet still retains its creamy consistency, but the Camel paints has started developing a hard crust on the outside. 2 hours later, Sonnet still has an even creamy texture, but the Camel paint has an uneven consistency. It's dry on the outside and moist inside. In the second test, I am laying out swatches of both the paints next to each other. What is evident to me as I do this is the fact that the Camel paints has a chalky, opaque consistency, but the Sonnet paint has a more translucent gel-like texture. In terms of brightness and vibrancy, the Camel paints does seem to have an edge over the Sonnet colors. Having tested out these paints, what is apparent is the fact that both these paints have very unique properties, and I see this as an opportunity for the artist to exploit these unique characteristics and experiment with different art styles. And now talking about the cost, at Rs 895, this box of Sonnet acrylic paint is definitely expensive. So unless you have very deep pockets, it does not make sense to use these paints on a large size canvas. But if you're working on a small artwork or a small piece of craft activity, then these Russian paints are sure to add an element of surprise and intrigue to your work. If you enjoyed this video, do click the like button and do subscribe to my channel to watch an art supply review every Wednesday.